Okay, good evening, everyone. It is Monday evening. Trying to close that door over there. Monday evening, March, whatever it is. It's March 8th, Monday evening. And here's the deal for Chicago. We're in the midst of an unseasonably warm air mass. Temperatures in the 60s today, 60s tomorrow. Maybe even parts of the area may hit 70 tomorrow. 70 degrees again possible on Wednesday. Personally, I think we'll see a high of 69 on Wednesday at the official reporting station, which will tie the record of 69 degrees set back whenever it was set. Tomorrow night, record warmth on the way, overnight low 53 degrees. The previous record was set back in 1876. 52 degrees was the previous record. That 53 degrees I'm getting from the National Weather Service. I don't have an opinion on that, but that makes very good sense to me that that record should be broken by now. So it doesn't make sense that we have a record from 1876 here, especially since the thermometer that back then was the mercury thermometer, and it was right next to the lake back then. That's when the weather station was the University of Chicago was the official weather station over there, right next to Lake Michigan, and there was much less of an urban heat island effect back then, if there was anything. And the temperature still, I love records from the 1870s. I absolutely love records from the 1870s. A record from the 1870s deserves... We have a record from the 1870s? How? How do we have a record from 1876? That was just like 10 years after Abraham Lincoln. I don't know. That was like 15 years after Abraham Lincoln was, he was president 1860. Yeah, that's a long, long time ago. I don't know. We have not broken that record. And in about a week from now, we're going to be seeing records that are almost unbeatable. They were set in an unprecedented heat wave in 2012, something that has never happened before. And it's going to take a couple hundred years before something like that ever happens again. So this past February was the coldest February in the United States in 32 years, since 1989. And that was not a joke. It's just I read it in a paper which only speaks about man-made global warming, blah, blah, blah. And it only speaks about how this is something warmer. And the same paper, the Washington Post, I'm so happy it was in the same paper. It shows that at least they're honest. They put in this whole thing about February 1989. But the big thing I wanted to talk here is that they're forecasting with high confidence 4 consecutive days in the 60s. We mentioned 4 consecutive days last week on Friday. Nobody was forecasting it. Nobody. But I accidentally mentioned it, and I accidentally kept talking about it forever. And then I realized that it's only 3 consecutive days, and that's according to the warmest forecast. The other forecasts are not forecasting even 3 as of last Friday. So how did these 4 days come up? Well, last Friday, I said if we do a little cheer, maybe there'll be 4 consecutive days, and the cheer worked. And the cheer goes, 4 more days. 4 more. So that cheer of 4 more days, it worked. And we're with high confidence. It hasn't happened yet, so there's no guarantees, but it looks like we're going to have 4 days with temperatures at least in the 60s, maybe even the 70s. And that warmth goes all the way up to the lake for the next couple of days. Southwest winds bring it all the way up. Areas which have a snowpack are warmer tonight than the rest of the areas. That is because of high dew points, which have developed above the snowpack due to evaporation. The temperature can never drop lower than the dew point. So it's like for a technical reason, we're stuck with temperatures in the low 40s, where it's downstate in central Illinois where there's no snow, temperatures are in the 30s. Now, really the deal, I think, is that the areas right next to the snowpack have temperatures in the 40s because that high dew point air has spread across the Chicago area. Dew points in the 40s is not high dew point, but we're speaking relatively speaking. The rest of this country, the places which don't have that snowpack, they have red flag warnings, fire watches, and different things like that. Relative humidity is real low over the rest of the country. I was going to do an applause, but it's an applause for us. It could be we're also in some type of a fire watch, but the risks are much less around here due to that snowpack. And there are places which still have several inches of snow on the ground here in the Chicago area, believe it or not. We're going to end off in just less than a minute. We're just going to mention that there's a 1 to 2 feet of snow headed down into the Rockies and to the West Coast. A foot of snow for Denver, Colorado later in the week. Snowstorm headed for the southern plains and then moving up north will be affecting the area this weekend. Snow may fall even in the Chicago area, but the main low pressure system stays to our south. But that needs to be monitored big time on that one, because that is that's something that I saw a few days ago on a certain website, which indicated that might be a stronger system than people think right now. But we will look into that. Anyways, snow for Nebraska, extreme north Nebraska, northwest Nebraska. Temperatures in the upper 70s there tomorrow, and then snow tomorrow night. And then Casper, Wyoming has temperatures in the 70s tomorrow. 3 to 6 inches of heavy snow, maybe even more for tomorrow night. That's March for you. It's like the month of Adar. Things go back and forth, flip around, and that's the way it is. We have unseasonably cold air on the West Coast, snow even hitting the valleys in some locations, and we have warm air over in the Midwest, but that cold air is headed our way. Warm air on the East Coast, temperatures in the 60s for Tuesday, Thursday, and Shabbos in New York, 50s for Wednesday and Friday. Warm weather will eventually make it to New England as well, I believe, but right now it's cold. And in Washington, D.C., temperatures going into the 70s. Freeze warnings in effect for out in South Carolina. I think even northern Florida has some type of frost advisory. An air quality alert is in effect for places in either Virginia or on the Carolinas. A hydraulic outlook with flood, which is the same as a flood watch, in effect for the St. Louis area till Sunday for several inches of rain. 2 to 4 inches of rain in Guam. And what else do we have to say? Flood warnings continue along many of the rivers in the Kentucky, Tennessee, and down into the Gulf states. We're going to have a severe weather outbreak expected later in this week, just actually in a couple days for the southern plains, and that's probably right before the snowstorm. And that GFS computer model, which shows that snow, that needs to be looked at once again. Possible thunder in the Chicago area Thursday morning. And that cold front pushes through, stays just to our south, and temperatures get much colder. Anyways, I'm going to head off and wish everybody a good night. This podcast remained under 8 minutes.